Welcome to StarTechies, my way to the world of technology. These talks are designed to provide an insight into the multitude of career paths available in the field of tech, from UX design, animation, even archaeology. I'm Kristen and I'm the Communications Manager at Inicio. And today we're joined by Futurenoob co-founders Ranjith and Nebo. Futurenoob is a subscription-based platform that virtualizes existing tools and applications for game development. It was created to give indie game developers the same opportunity as the big companies. Ranjith and Nebo have both had extremely interesting career backgrounds, from the film industry, software engineering, and HR. And we're sure this will make for a fascinating talk. So we're joined by Ranjith and Nebo, and they've got extremely varied career backgrounds. Nebo was a film producer at some of the leading creative agencies in Stockholm. He's done public relations and graphic designs. And Ranjith was a tech recruiter, advisor, and software engineer. So now they both are in charge of this exciting new startup. So let's hear all about their career journey, how they got to where they are today, and what's on the horizon. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so let's start. What is Futurenoob? What does this word actually mean? Where did the title come from?
Yeah, I think it comes from how Ranjit and me met and how we worked, because we met 7 years ago, and we both believe in lifelong learning. And it came just from, we have two simple words, future and noob. Noob as a beginner. And I think we both believe that we are all new and we're all beginners in the future, and we all have to keep learning along the way. So it kind of started with that.
It's very interesting, yeah, very catchy. I like saying it. So that's a good thing.
That's good.
And so what exactly does the company do, rather than my high-level explanation I gave to start with? Let's dig deep and work out what you do, and then we'll go back into your career journeys and how you ended up where you are today.
Absolutely. So what we're doing with Futurenoob is we are creating a platform where this platform holds all the applications that the game development industry uses today. And we have identified around 97 applications, which like worldwide game development community uses. And we are pushing them onto the cloud and giving them an affordable access where they don't have to think about, okay, do I have a spec-art computer? No. Can I work with a laptop which is 10 years old? The answer is yes. And most importantly, this also lowers the barrier and also saves cost. And on top of it, from the sustainability aspect, we want to make sure that the resources that everyone has, like irrespective of what kind of laptop do I have, I should be able to efficiently use it. And with the technology advancements that are coming up, I think like these kind of things in attachment to the sustainability aspect should grow even more. And what we are offering will give affordable access to anyone who wants to be a game developer.
And you saw a real need for this service then?
Exactly. So we have validated this we have spoken to many indie companies and also students who are aspiring to become game developers or game designers. And one of the interesting facts that when we spoke to universities, they said like not every student will have a spec-art computer, and not every student can run application which is the same version. So there is, of course, from the university perspective and from students' perspective, and also the professionals who wants to just give a kickstart without much investment, because game development infrastructure itself, it costs a lot. If I have a game development company with 5 people on board, I would spend the first thing I would spend is on infrastructure, because without a computer or hardware, I can't work on it. So I would say like in SEC, we understood that on an average, a company spends around $500,000 just for the first 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the whole point is actually to same with the students, same with the developers. It's putting them in the same play field, so that they have the same opportunity, and they by saving money and saving time, they can focus more on their passion and actually work on the game.
And neither of you are game developers though, so how did you become really interested in this area? Where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, so from I'll tell my point of view. So I was working at EA, and EA was the one company. I mean, it's a really great company. Uh, until then, I didn't realize that people who are passionate about something can go beyond the limits. And I've seen people, especially within the gaming industry. I mean, I've been a developer, and I moved into HR, working within HR for 4 years before I moved to EA. I've never seen someone or anyone who is super passionate and creative and holds pride for their work. And that changed my view. Okay, if you combine passion and work, this is how you're going to be. And that drew me into this industry.
I think for me I was coming from film, and for me storytelling was always one of the biggest passions. And for that, as a next evolutionary step, was actually game development, because you're immersed in that story. And it was a similar thing like with Ranjit. I think whoever I met who was a game developer, their level of passion was completely different plane. So that also drew me really to it.
Very interesting. I mean, you were talking about passion and entrepreneurship before, and Ranjith, you actually became involved in this field very early at 16 years old from a very unlikely source. Can you share that story that you were telling me yesterday?
Exactly. Me and my brother, we started. I grew up in a business family. My father is a business person, and he has been successful all his life. And seeing him, my brother and me, we were aspiring. Okay, one day we have to become a good business person. And when I was at 16, my brother and me, we decided like, okay, why don't we start something with the money we have? And at that time in India, it was like the smartphones was very new, and we started selling smartphones just for fun, with the little money we had, and that grew into a business within 2 years. Basically, we started on the company, not even a company, it's called a mobile shop. We started with 4,000 Swedish kronor, and in 2 years we sold it off for like 200,000 Swedish. And that's where I started. And the unusual thing was like, we didn't even think that it's going to grow that big.
And how did you make it grow that big? For people that are thinking, hey, I want to start a small business and I want to grow it really big, and what's the secret?
Yeah,
When you
so
take clients?
it was more about like we understood the market, and we only targeted people who can afford them, because smartphones, even in that point, it was a little expensive compared to the normal phones. I mean, I can give you one example. Like there was like Nokia 6600, and that was the model that was the best sold ones. But on the other hand, we targeted like, okay, who will afford this? And we mainly targeted my father's friends, to be honest, to start with. So that it was like a target market, and people, being kids, people thought like, okay, these guys are doing something different, because usually, like, if you go to any mobile shop, you just go and buy. What we did is like the extra service that what we gave is like the warranty, and if someone comes to buy a phone, we used to explain each and every feature of the phone. No one did that. That was the extra service that added on, and people felt like, okay, it was super personal. And if I'm like 50 years old, I would never buy a smartphone. But if they would have come to our shop, we would have educated them. Why is it important?
Okay, so it's the extra service.
Exactly.
And then where did you go from there? We'll continue with your career journey, and then we'll go to you, Nebo, to try and work out how you got to where you are today. So
yeah. So after that, I mean, in India, there is a stigma. Once you complete your gymnasium, you only have two routes: either you become an engineer or a doctor. So I wanted to take a different route. I gave like a competitive exams for going into military and the National Defense Academy as into the Air Force. But unfortunately, my parents, especially my father, didn't like. He thought he will. I mean, at that point of time, there was like a war going on, and it was called Kargil War. And he thought like, oh, if I send him, I lose him. No. So he denied 2 times, even though I was into the program. So the only choice I had was like, okay, let's go and become an engineer. So I took.
It sounds like such an easy choice. I'll become an engineer. That's going to be easy.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't want to become a doctor because in gymnasium we had like a subject like in biology. I decided like we had to cut frogs, so I was super scared. And I decided this is not for me, and the only choice I had was like going into the technology. So that's where I started, even though I didn't like in the beginning. I started programming was not a piece of cake for me from the beginning, but after 4 years I started getting passionate about like uh, automating things. I had a car I used to race a lot, and every time something goes wrong, because this car was electronically advanced, and it has like some software which I was so much curious about. Okay, I'm doing this. Let's try to fix things. I used to fix the mechanical parts and also try to learn the software part of the car. So that's how my interest went into the programming, and I decided like, okay, this is something curious and interesting, and why not try to work within this? And unfortunately I got a testing job. So I used to fix a lot of things, and testing was the go-to. So I did back then we had like a Nokia Symbian games, uh, the Symbian OS from Nokia. So I was a tester for that Symbian operating system from Nokia. Whatever games that they have been developing, I used to test those games. After that, I lived in Australia for almost 8 months, and there it was like I just went there to take a personal break. After that, I came back and I joined a university where it was a 2-year master's course, and that was even funny because every month we were exposed to one new programming language. And there was an airline industry who gave the project to this university. So basically, they gave us 3 months. Every month we have to learn new programming language. While we are learning the other ones, we have to implement the first programming language we have learned. And 600 students within this master course have developed a module for airline industry, which is still in use. So 6 months later, I decided this is super intense, and I had a nightmare. Like whenever I go into the university, I felt like I'm going into a lion's den. It was that intense. So then I chose like, okay, I wanted to go abroad. After my bachelor's, I tried to go abroad to US, and I just gave up because it was a lot of competition. And then in 2010, I wanted to go somewhere, and there was exchange studies. The exchange studies was between Sweden, Germany, and Switzerland. The funny story about this is when I asked my father to sign papers that he's okay that I can go for studies. My grandmother, she never. I mean, I heard about Germany, I heard about Switzerland. To be very honest, like I was poor in social, and I didn't know Sweden existed. So my grandmother, she thought like I was going to Sudan because she was always has a perception that I was going to make money a lot, and I was always about money. So I told her like it's not Sudan, it's Sweden, it's in Europe, and it took me 1 month to convince her. My father was fed up showing her map. This is where Sweden exists. So I took the exchange studies. I came here to study master's in software engineering, which was a combination of management and programming. And after that, I completed, during my master thesis, I did, I mean, it was like within software engineering itself. Uh, After that, I applied for a PhD, which was in machine learning and big data. I work with a laboratory in Norway. It's called Simula Laboratories, where I worked for 6 months, and I decided, okay, this is not something for me. In between, I worked as a Java developer for 1 year, and I decided like this is not something for me, and I was looking for something more advanced. So that's why I ended up having taking that PhD program within big data and machine learning. 6 months later into it, I didn't like it, and it was like a practical issues between the university and the laboratory. So I had to drop out, and that was like my dream come true, doing that PhD. So I couldn't do anything. So I was heartbroken, and I was searching for something, and I was always passionate about photography. I went into photography. I traveled 15, 16 countries within a span of 4 months, where one Spanish company paid me to do a portfolio for them. It's called Fashion in Daily Lives. So it was like a street photography, basically. Uh, and while I was doing that, one of my brother's friend's company was going down financially. I helped them out as everything, and I liked the HR part of that everything. And then I started looking for jobs, and I got a job within a consulting company within HR/recruitment, where I really enjoyed because I don't have to be super technical. I don't have to, and I wanted the people aspect of it. So I wanted to combine technology and people. This was the right fit for me at that time. And I continued in that. I grew in that, and I worked with companies like Coworker, Hayes, EA, Boy Technology. And while working at EA, me and Nebo, we knew each other for almost 7.5 years. I mean, we can tell more about that later. But then after Boy, I mean, at EA, we decided not to work anymore and jump on this ship. Then I got this Boy Technology offer, and I wanted to give a chance for 6 months. And after 6 months, we started in January working full time on this. That's my love journey.
It's such a great journey too, because it shows just how many different passions and interests you have. And that's quite normal for people to have. It's really hard to work out even what to do and what to pick to, because you have so many. You've got photography, you've got there's so much there. Okay, Nagu, what's your career journey as well?
It started first with studying biology and chemistry, natural sciences. Both of my parents are engineers. My mother was an agricultural engineer, and my father was an electronical engineer. So somehow it was expected for me also to go into STEM field. So I ended up studying biology and chemistry, and then I had a passion for microbiology, but I always had a really strong creative side. So I kind of like went into studying this, not really wanting it so much. But on my freshman year, first thing that happened, there was a society of students of biology that wasn't that active. I became a member, and somehow within 6 months, I was like leading a research project with 30 people behind me, all students, which led me to realization that I really like working with people. I loved research, but I loved actually also connecting people and helping them get to their goal. So it started from there, and during those studies, I worked for like next 3 years with the same NGO, where we actually, from a non-active NGO, created a really active, where we had different programs for knowledge transfer to our students and from different experts. But by the end of it, I realized I need to be true to myself. So I decided to drop out and to try to find myself. Then for about 2 years, I was actually volunteering a lot and working working in this daycare center for people with disabilities. During that time, I also got involved with different NGOs, and actually I started studying youth working. There was a program in my country led actually by Jönköping University. So I started working with kids. At the same time, I was doing some amateur photography and illustration at the same time. So I used actually photography as a topic for these workshops, but the real goal as a youth worker was actually to help young people find who they are and what are their values and what they want to do. And I really loved that. And through that, I kind of like segued more into this different kind of NGOs that were more into cultural advocacy. and I spent almost 8 years working within the NGO sector. During that time, I started studying photography and freelancing as a photographer, and also working a bit with graphic design. And then at one point, I met then my girlfriend, but now my wife, who is an architect, which was also a career precursor, because I was learning to work in a 3D model program, and I was just playing around, made some furniture. She liked it, so we decided to build prototypes of that. And then, just as a joke, we sent it to a competition, and then we got selected into 50 most talented designers in the region.
Wow.
So then we were like, okay, this is great, but now it's becoming real. So we went with that, and we ran like a furniture design studio for 5-6 years. And during that time, I had to learn how to build a website, do graphic design, do a bit of marketing, deal with customers and stuff like that. And we managed to have customers across Europe, also Russia, and some interest from US. And I was also, besides that, still freelancing a bit with graphic design, and then went towards film. But then I also moved in the meantime to Sweden, where it was like when you come to a new country, everything is new, and you kind of like start from beginning. So we stopped working with that furniture design, and I focused more on visual creativity. And as I said, my passion was always storytelling. I think you always have a form of storytelling, whatever you do. Is it graphic design? Is it even furniture? Is it a film? So I worked a lot with film, and Ranjith and me, actually, we met like that. We met on a meetup group, and we actually grew that meetup group from 2-3 people to 250 people, I think we had in the end. And it started as a casual thing. It started as we were just meeting at Clarion Sun Hotel in Stockholm in the lobby, just like a few people, and then it grew, and then all of a sudden it was like 20 people talking about scripts and reading scripts and planning shooting there, which became a problem because we were meeting every week, and it was obvious that we are like taking the space there. So we got in contact with Subtopia at Albi, and then we became also part of their program. And there we actually grew the group even more, and we had different kind of workshops for people. We use that model of lifelong learning, where we have professionals who are teaching amateurs. And during that time, I was also working as a PR manager for an architecture office here in Sweden. I kind of accidentally got that job, and it grew to that position, which was also very, very interesting.
Because already get a job.
But it was a really I got the job. Actually, I was first hired to build their website, and then after I've done that, they offered me space to sit in their office, and then I kind of like ended up doing a lot of stuff with them. I even actually, since I had that experience with some industrial design, I also done some projects together with them. But again, my passion was more film, and in the meantime, I was also filming for Creative Mornings event that's happening in more than 160 countries around the world, where different people from different industries share their knowledge. And that led for me to work also for Gant, the fashion brand, for 2 years, and also filming and producing events in similar fashion for them. And again, all that time I've been working on the side with different indie filmmakers. And again, as a casual gamer, I gained interest in game development, and I saw it as a big next step for storytelling and for myself, because I think games have a really interesting and really important role in our society. It's not just entertainment; it's a big vessel also for education and for putting values into the society. So for a while I was freelancing, as but also and as a film mentor. And during that time, I got contacted by an agent who was representing me, and I got some really great exposure and really nice projects to work on. But again, I was on the side looking to go towards game development, and for a while I was working with a few agencies. And that's when kind of like things led me towards Ranjith and me together to start working again. I got approached by a recruiter from UK for EA Games for a position in Stockholm, and then Ranjith and me we refreshed our relationship. And luckily the process was a bit longer, so we started talking more and more about the industry and how we see it, and we had a lot of acquaintances that we had that were between us, and we realized, okay, why don't we combine our passions and start doing something together. I ended up, I decided just to keep on freelancing in the meantime while we started working with this. And I worked on a few documentaries in the meantime. And then January this year, we decided to go full time on this. So instead of working for 40 hours a week for somebody else, we started working 80 hours a week for ourselves.
Wow, that's quite a journey for both of you.
Yeah.
You've both done so much. What do you think is like the skill set that has allowed you to both be so versatile? Like, is it your interest in technology, your curiosity, the fact that you say yes to new opportunities? I mean, you've done so many different things, both of you.
I mean, I would say like it's not saying yes for everything is easier, but saying no is harder. And the most important thing is like, again, in my case, like at least, I was very much fascinated with new things. And of course, there were some points where I took on too many things on myself. For example, like I ran a software development company for 2 years, and then I realized like, okay, this is becoming too much, and I had to sell it off. So after in those 2 years, what I learned, it was more about like, okay, opportunities are going to come. But when, again, this is something most important, right? When we think opportunities are not there, then it's not there. When we think opportunities are there, there are so many opportunities lined up, but then you'll be in a situation like, okay, you need to pick the right one. And when I say right one, it's at that moment, at that point of time, in that moment, whatever you pick, whatever your heart says, okay, this is right for now, that's okay, you can take it. But then maybe you'll fail or maybe you'll succeed. At least like me and Nebo, we always have the same understanding. Like, let's say in one of my project, I failed in like taking the product into the market, and I don't regret that, because over the time, at that point of time, I felt like, oh, it is easy to do this because I've already done something similar. But then I saw the complexity as soon as we go. But at the same time, I love complexities. Do I have time? That's the question I asked. And I had to pause it for like a couple of months and then decide like, okay, this is not going to be done in the next 10 years. And I still have that in shelf and I'm going to pick it up. But at that point of time, is it right for you? And one thing is like, of course, we can regret everything, but to answer back your question, I'm circling it around. So it's all about curiosity and the fascination, and asking yourself like, is this the right time? Can you do this? These are the three things.
Yeah, sorry, interrupting. I think it also comes down to your mindset.
Exactly.
I think it's really important for you to try and fail as much as you can, because from that you'll learn how to pick yourself up. You'll learn how to focus. And as Ranjith said, it's also important to say no, because it's easy to say yes, but then you really have to because saying no is putting you in a situation to really test your belief in what you're doing. And it seems what you do. Again, it's also really important in this situation where you are for yourself to also say, okay, even though I've put a lot of effort in this direction, it's okay for me to when I realize this is not really what I wanted, to say I'm going to stop with this. sometimes not, because of course, when you're young, you have expectations of your parents, you have expectations of people around you, and then it's harder for you to say no. I don't really want to do this, and I know that from my own background, because I went into something I didn't really want it to go, but again, I'm super grateful because I loved working with the people I was working, and that really helped me to actually create tools for myself in future work, because coordinating 30 biologists in a national park in the middle of the night when it's like raining and you don't have like a roof over your head is like comes in handy, like even like 10 years after, when you're like coordinating like a set with the film production. So I think it's really important to try and to fail as much as you can, and it will lead you in the right direction.
And one of the things that I want to add on that is like how try and fail is the easiest. I would say like again, mindset, right? So you need to have the right mindset to try and fail. But when you're trying and failing, the output is something that you need to take care of. What are you learning from it, and
Yeah.
where can you implement these learnings? This is the most important thing.
Yeah, because while you're trying and failing, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's like you feel horrible. You don't see any exit out of it. But then, as Ranjith said, like, yeah, it's really important to learn from it.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of when you've tried and you've failed and you've learned from it, Yimu?
Too many.
And then we'll go through something positive after that.
No, but it's I mean, there is like situations where I think when you take too much on yourself and say too much yes, then you see your limit, and that's what I had. I've taken sometimes too much of myself on different projects, but then I realized, okay, I can't do all of them. I can't do everything, and what I learned from that is that time is really important, and I have to be in a way really selfish and picky how I'm gonna spend my time and on what I'm gonna do my focus. But right now I'm trying to figure out what would be the. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
If I can.
But in terms of like your focus now, it's all about Futurenoob, and we talked about it a little bit before. But if I was a game developer, an indie game developer, and I wanted to use your service, exactly what would I get? So maybe do the sales pitch for me.
So,
No,
do you want Ranjit, or?
no, go on.
Well, first of all, you don't have to have a spec'd out computer. You don't have to buy an expensive computer. You can use your old laptop. And in those terms, it's saving you money. And again, you can run, let's say 5 or even 10 applications at the same time, which are highly graphically intensive and CPU intensive. And you can jump between them and work at the same time, which you cannot do easily on a less spec'd out computer. And you're in that way, you're actually not bound by technology. You're not. We're relieving that pain from the developer.
I mean, just one example to what Nebo said is like, let's say, for example, if a game developer or game designer, I mean, anyone who is doing the rendering of a particular environment, usually in any kind of rendering, big or small, it does take some time, between like 10 minutes to hours. And with our application, while you're putting one of the application open and rendering the objects or anything, you can still work on the same computer in a different tab. So the accessibility of these applications is very high compared to when you have your own laptop or computer.
Great. I mean, I have trouble with my laptop and just rendering programs at the moment with video editing. So I can see how this could be very helpful. And I'm not even a game developer, so. So what's some of the opportunities you see then with this, with Futurenoob, just like as a business and growing it? Where do you plan to go from here?
We would like to understand even more. I mean, we think like, again, this in the beginning, in the first quarter of next year. So the first product will be more focusing on the high level problems, but then we will be digging a bit more details. I mean, we know what are those problems now, but we want to work alongside with these companies, big or small, and understand and implement these things and to alleviate the pain points that we have already identified. And also we want to make this platform completely focused on the gaming industry and stabilize it. That's from the product perspective. Maybe
And
nobody
also,
have any other.
yeah, at the same time, our platform has an educational character, and I think it's really important. What we want to do is to grow. Game development is really driven by the people, so we want to give them also a platform where they can also share their knowledge and their work while they're doing it.
Okay. Well, I think we probably actually have some questions from the audience. They'll probably want to know more about your career and also what Futurenoob is doing. So if we can go to the audience questions, and then, hey, Annette, did you
Yes.
work double at 2 different times?
Yes, I would say even triple. So the times where I was helping my brother's friend's company, I had to say traveling a lot back and forth to India, and also photography, and also my first job within HR. So that was the triple shot.
And how did you manage that? I mean, that should be an extra question. How?
No, I think like it's the flexibility my first boss has given me within HR, because I was new and I was just learning things, and understanding technology was not a big thing for me, and speaking to developers was like natural. So that also helped me to put less time and be more productive. And while I was traveling, I used to take stops. Let's say I had like, I still remember in a couple of months, I have traveled around or in 3 months, I traveled around 8 times. And whenever I used to travel back to India, I used to take a long flights where I helped these Spanish company with some food, like they chose some countries where I can do the street photography. So I used to take stops there and go to India, come back, stops there, and come back to Sweden.
And you didn't sleep
Yeah.
very often. Yeah. The passion sustained you.
Exactly.
Okay. Next question then. How did you find the courage to go against your parents?
Oh, I think like it's not about courage. It's about the mindset, as Nebo said. Like it totally depends on like how you put the words in front of them and how expressive you are. Because from my experience, I would say like I'm being very honest. Like it totally depends on what kind of relationship you have with your parents and how expressive you are. Because sometimes I've seen like friends who were scared to express their feelings to their parents, and my parents were, how to say, at least my father and mother, they were understanding what I was going through without even saying. And I've seen like a lot of friends who had like a tough time to go to their parents or ask or go against them. And I'm not saying like I had the courage, but at some points I had to listen. For example, there was only one choice for me to do engineering. In those times, I didn't had any say because I myself didn't know what other choices they were within a limited time. But I would say like be expressive. Try to talk to your parents if you have something going on. Uh, Again, they would definitely listen to you. The only thing is the communication gap. Fill that communication gap between you and your parents.
Right. Another question. Did you guys ever feel anxious not knowing what you wanted to do?
Always. Never. What is your
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah, always. I mean, it is. I think when I was younger, I felt more pressure from my family to know what I want to do and where I want to go. But after I broke free of it, it's really hard because you also have this pressure from society, and it depends. It varies from generation to generation. Like for my, I think I fall into the millennial generation. I think for myself, I felt that pressure from my parents to go to, for them it was going from A to B, B to C, C to D. It was pretty linear journey in their life and career. But what I've seen is that, yeah, no, life is not like that, and sometimes you feel that pressure to know what you want to do. But I think I got rid of it early on.
Yeah, and
And you,
also like I just want to add one thing. Uh, it's not about like of course though you feel anxious, the first thing you need to understand is like as Nebo said, like there might be societal pressure, there might be pressure from your friends and family. Uh, though there is a lot of pressure, I would have done this like close your eyes and ask yourself, what is that what you want to do? What is that you're passionate about? If you know what you're passionate about, I would say like try to follow it. Even if you do some mistakes, that's okay because you gain experience along the way. But do not, how do you say, do not go in the trend just because everyone is going in that direction. Try to see like what other direction do you have and what makes you happy. That's the most important thing.
very true. Okay. N- Um, how about your friends? Did you ever follow them because you fell for peer pressure?
Yeah, of course. I would say like until I was in like 10th standard, I was in that peer pressure just because again, the education system in India is all about ranking and who is, how to say, knowledgeable enough and who has like this, it doesn't matter, like if they get good grades, then you go into that. And in my case, it was my father's school I was studying, and the pressure was even more because any mistake that I have done, that was reported to my father. And my father was like, he just told me one thing, like, whatever you do, I don't care. Just make sure that nothing comes to me. So I made sure that nothing came to him. And he, of course, there were a lot of things that came to him through my friends. But on the other hand, like, I would say, like, don't ever feel pressured because everyone has their own journey and everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. So if you fall under that peer pressure, just ask yourself, like, again, comparison is uh, I wouldn't say worst thing, but comparing yourself to someone else is not the right thing, at least from my point of view. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
No, sorry. I just want to say that you have to learn how to break free of it. But like people even in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s still fall down under the peer pressure. So it's not an easy thing to break out from.
And you said that when you studied, both of you, when you started studying, you worked out that it wasn't what you wanted to do with some of the degrees. Why did you choose that to start with then? Was that a bit of peer pressure, or you just weren't quite sure about your direction yet?
In my case, I wasn't. I mean, I wanted to do something else, but again, that is a pressure because my father didn't want me to go into Air Force or Army. So the next, I didn't prepare my mind for an alternative. So the absolute choice was left for me was the engineering. So I just had to take it, not to waste some time.
Yeah, I think it was similar for me. I was for me it was also expected to go into science and to thrive in it. But when I early on figured out that this is not for me, it took me some time actually to find that courage to say, okay, this is not me, and I need to do something else because I'm really not happy with this. But then after I broke free of it, then you feel less of it further on in life.
And you learn as well from what you don't like. That's also a learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's very important to sometimes you realize I really didn't like that, so now I'm beginning to know what I like as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of like when I dropped out my studies, biology and chemistry. I had a lot of questions from everyone around me, my friends, my family, everyone thought it was a mistake, and everyone used every possible opportunity to tell me that I'm making a big mistake, and that I need to finish it. And it was really hard, to be honest, for a few years just listening that. But I think when your wish to do something else and your passion drives you, then it kind of like it can overcome that bad feeling that you feel with that pressure that you got from those comments.
Okay, very good.
And also, like again, if you end up in some circumstances where you have to do something, I would say, like as you said, like Christine, embrace it. I mean, if you embrace it, you will know what is the value that you can find out from there. Sometimes, I mean, in my case, like I loved working with software of a car, and I thought, like, okay, how can I apply what I've studied? And then I moved into that area. So don't feel pressured, even if you end up in a situation because of pressure, but try to see the positive side of it.
Okay. The next question, I think, here we are. Do you ever feel like an imposter for not knowing enough when you took on projects? How did you
Always.
fake it till you made it?
I think that's a really good question, a good thing, because that's a really common thing, and I think that's really good to even have that feeling, because it keeps you grounded, it keeps you realistic, it keeps you questioning, and I think you need to question yourself along the way, as long as it's healthy questioning, not going too much. But I felt that many times, and the way I alleviated that feeling was actually just to work harder and work more and to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for me. And the most important thing that I always ask myself is, like, whenever you question yourself, it's more about, like, I mean, taking stress with these kind of situations is one thing, and asking yourself, like, okay, if you go into that direction, is there anything? Two questions: is there anything that I can influence? Or if the answer is no, just move forward. If the answer is yes, jump in and fix it.
Right. For Nebo, do you have any tip for a guy that would like to go into the filmmaking world?
Yes, I have not one, I have so many. But the thing that happened with film is that actually it became really democratized, really available. You can really, like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it was really hard to buy a proper camera, do anything actually, edit a film and everything. It took more money, but today you have everything at reach of your hand, and that's also a problem, because you can easily get super stressed about you not having this camera, you don't have this, you can really get upset by technicalities. And the best tip I would say is just do it, just start doing it, because practice makes you better. And start doing it with your friends, start filming with your friends, start filming them, and start focusing on the stories that you know, stories that are around you, because then it will be more truthful. Don't maybe tell, you can do of course, but don't maybe tell the stories you don't know, but start telling your own stories, and that's a really good way to develop your own voice.
Perfect, nice tip. Okay, do we have any more questions then? How did you learn to say no? How do you learn how to say no? It's harder than just saying no, right?
Yeah. I would say that I can say for myself that I'm the type of person who cannot learn from other people's mistakes. I have to make them on my own. So I learned to say no by actually crashing a few times with some projects that where I've seen some red flags in the beginning, but I still thought that I can do them. But then they went through, but it wasn't a really pleasant experience. So that made me more cautious and to think more through about how I spend the time and what do I say yes to.
I think like it also adds about the experience, right? So if you if you're going on a road and if you know you don't know that there's a pitfall and you fall in it, and the next time when you go into that, you'll definitely say, okay, don't go there. So as Nebo said, like I think like it's mostly the same. You can't say no right from the day one, but you'll start saying no when you know that when you gain that experience in a particular direction on whatever you're doing, and you I think like it's human brain, like it analyzes the situation much more than we think. So just listen to your brain and heart.
Very good as well. Okay, do you have anything you feel you regret doing? this,
uh,
this one's a tough one.
yeah,
How much do you want to share?
it's a tricky one too.
I can say for myself, no. I'm like, there were like some really bumpy and tough stuff, but I would say no, because I think it comes down to it, leveraging. Can you learn from it? And even though I had some bumpy situations, I took something good from it. I learned how not to get into them again. So I think I would say for myself, I don't really regret doing
Uh,
anything.
I had one regret until I came to Sweden. Actually, it was just like a couple of months. Why did I come back from Australia?
That's a natural regret. As an Australian, I think
Exactly,
that's a very natural
exactly.
regret.
No, I mean, as Nico said, like again, this goes back to my first words when we started this. There's nothing you have to regret because you made your own choice at one point of time where you felt that was right at that point of time, and you came here, and maybe you might be successful or you might be it might be a failure, but it totally depends on like what kind of learnings you took from it. And regretting it doesn't give anything.
Yeah, and I just want to add that even if you do regret for things, I think that's really okay, because just try to have in mind that in time you will change and your perspective will change, and you will see it differently in 6 months or 6 weeks or 6 years.
Very positive way to look at it. Where do you see yourself as a company in the next 3 to 4 years?
Yeah. uh, to be very honest, like we wanted to, I'm just giving you the business side of it. We want to scale. The reason why we chose gaming industry is, of course, our passion and our interest lies within this, and we see a lot of opportunities how we can scale this to other industries too. So in the next 3 to 4 years, we definitely see, like, let's say for example, once our product or products will be stabilized and it's widely used within the gaming industry, then we'll see like what other industries are intersecting with the work that the gaming industry is doing.
And do you see like the Stockholm tech sector continuing to grow in the next 3-4 years?
Exactly. I mean, we always discuss one thing, like if you see the technology shift, I mean, if you talk about generation, we talk about like 10 years maybe, but the technology shift, like is between 1980s to 2000 to 90, I would say, or 95 was the same. 95 to 2005 one, and 2005 to 2011 was one shift. And there was also an article published by some guy at Harvard University how technology is changing and how it's going to change. And the shift these days is the variance of 2 years. Every second year, the technology is shifting, advancing, I would say.
So it's getting faster and faster, the changes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, do you have any company you look up to or get inspiration from?
I would say like every company is different, and of course there are so many companies that are successful, and we can take learnings. But I wouldn't say like there is one particular company that, I mean, there are many.
The different aspects of them that are
Exactly.
good, and it's actually good to study those and to see how some of these companies, like how Adobe fought with some of their challenges, and then to kind of like compare that with where we are and then similar.
After trying out these many things, what do you think is your strongest skill?
I would say like for me, I would love to talk to people, and I'd say being outgoing is something that I'm really good at. At one point, I even had like a challenge for myself, like I need to meet one stranger a day for 3 years. So I met a lot of people, and one of the things that I felt like understanding people, uh, irrespective of how the circumstances, is something that I'm good at.
I would say for me, it goes a bit to that also creative background, and it's like maybe conceptual thinking and seeing patterns and pushing things forward. When even though when I feel like I don't have the energy, I think that's one of the strongest things I still have to keep pushing forward.
What advice would you give to a teenager when it comes to Oh, this is our final question. This is one from Inicio that we love to give. We've done the audience questions now. We've answered all of them. So if you had to give yourself a piece of advice when you're a teenager about, education or career path, just any sort of advice, if you'd been able to sit down and tell yourself something that was crucial, what would it be?
I would say like again, if you're asking about what advice do we give to a teenager,
yeah, what advice would you give to a teenager about education and career path?
Yeah, so I would say like again, we just spoke about technological advancements, right? And especially being a teenager in these kind of times, it is super confusing, and don't be scared about that, because again, you never know how things will change. There's a lot of factors and a lot of things that can impact how the society is functioning today. So try to, as I mentioned before, like try to find what is your passion. It can be anything, and try to connect with try to connect whatever you want to educate yourself or whatever you want to work with your passion. And I'm pretty sure, like again, having alternatives is good, but again, try anything that you do with your passion, because if you want to be happy, you don't have to think like, oh, I'm working or I'm studying, this is horrible. If you're connecting with your passion, you'll enjoy the journey.
That's really well said. I would just add to that, and just be true to yourself, and it's also okay if you change your mind along the way and you see something else, and then pursue that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And you both have such, as I said, an inspirational career journey. You've done so much, both of you. So good luck to Futurenoob. And do you have is there any other business plans on the horizon? If it sounds like you always thinking, there's always something coming up. You probably already have like another startup idea in your back pocket already. You probably should focus on this one first.
Yes, but that's where the learned skill of saying no and saying yes comes in hand, and choosing the right moment.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.